Massey, I do have a question for you. With immunotherapy or any type of cancer treatment, obviously it's approved through clinical trials. Does the healthcare disparity also affect clinical trial enrollment, and what can we do about that?
Thank you, Lisa. Well, clinical trials involvement and enrolling the patients on um, cancer clinical trials has been always a challenge, And having said that, particularly health disparities does affect clinical trials enrollment. If you look at different literature research, for example, Morgan and Klein in 2020, they published an article in the Journal of Biology in Sex Differences, and they indicated that women have been always and are still underrepresented in clinical trials. So underrepresentation of different ethnic groups, like representation of Blacks or other groups, if you look at that, you see that at the end of the clinical trials, you will have some bias on the results, especially on efficacy, endpoint of the trials. Even American Association of Cancer Research, they have found also that Black and Hispanic patients with breast, lung, colorectal and prostate cancer, they have been less likely, almost 30% less likely to be enrolled in clinical trials. So when you want to look at the data, you will see that you will not get the data that you are looking for. People from different ethnic background, if they are not being enrolled, you will not get the right protein biomarkers, immunohistochemistry. All these results will be affected because you do not have a wide range of ethnic groups to be enrolled in clinical trials. Having said that, is it difficult to get and why we don't have that population being enrolled? We did a lot of search and research on that in Canada, and we found a non-profit organization in United States. So you may be familiar with that. It's called CISCRIP, and CISCRIP stands for the Cancer for Information in Study on Clinical Research Participation, and do serve from East Coast to West Coast. And then they have events for underserved population, and it's called Aware for All. And then they will invite this specific population to attend and to learn about clinical trials and give them the idea of what it is. And it is the right also to be informed and enrolled. And what happened, we did the same thing here in Canada. And how did we measure the outcome? Was just asking the oncologists, and they were just telling us, going to different cancer centers, they were telling us that everybody is well aware of clinical trials. It is interesting that they are asking us if there is any clinical trials for my condition. We know that we do have loads and loads of clinical trials already happening for patients receiving immunotherapy, and we are now having clinical trials on immunotherapy combined with other cancer treatments, other treatment modalities like radiation treatment, post-surgery, chemotherapy, targeted agents, combination of two immunotherapy. So many clinical trials out there that our patients and underserved population may be eligible for that, but because of socioeconomic status or so many different health disparities, they may not be able to be enrolled, or at the very beginning, they are not aware of being able to be enrolled and involved in a clinical trial. So the physicians and the oncologists are telling us the patients are asking now about trials. So what should we do? And the best thing would be that now that they know, and we do know that there is a clinical trials for a patient starting on immunotherapy, why don't we refer the patients to another center who is running that trials? Because at the end of the day, it's a win-win situation and the patient will benefit from that clinical trials. So importance of clinical trials, bringing more education, training, and awareness is the key to make sure we start to bring an equality for being enrolled in clinical trials and benefit from those trials to all the population in an equal way, if possible.
Thank you, Massey. That was really great. And you're absolutely right. One of the barriers in clinical trial, is depending on the source of funding. And with a lot of oncology trials are now sponsored by pharmaceutical industries, um, it creates a problem of enrolling minority patients due to the sites may not have the clinical trials that is offered to certain type of patients. Um, with the Congress passing the National Institute of Health Revitalization Act in 1993, which mandates the clinical trial sponsor to include women and minorities. However, the referral rates are still pretty low um, in women and in minority patients. So, I think we need to do a little bit better to try to get the clinical trials out into the communities, trying to recruit more patients to participate in the clinical trials so that we can, in the future have better treatment options for patients with cancer diagnosis.